AL playoff predictions. What are you guys thinking? We could start with Ryan this time, and then we'll come back over to Maddox to switch it up a little bit here.
All right. So AL East, I'm going to take the Yankees still. I mean, I think that this really bad stretch that they're on right now, I think it's really coming to an end. I think, they're going to start getting some arms back pretty soon, and they're going to start playing the game that they've been able to play, the early part of the season. And I think they're going to really bolster their hold on the divisional lead. In the Central, that's really tough, but I'm going to go with Cleveland here. No particular reason. I think it's really a toss-up in the Central. But Cleveland has some pretty solid starting pitching. So, that's normally where I lean when it's kind of a toss-up between two different teams. Jose Ramirez has obviously been really good. They've had some guys step up, especially the two shortstops that they got for Francisco Lindor. Josh Naylor's been really nice. They have a surprisingly good core in the middle of their lineup. And obviously, if you've been watching them the past month or so, the back 3 or 4 in their bullpen has been just nasty leading up to Emmanuel Clase. So I think they've got a playoff team written all over them. I think, they'll take a little bit of a chunk out of the Twins in terms of coming after them. And then in the West, obviously, I'm going to take Houston. They have a really deep rotation, really good lineup, solid bullpen. I don't see any way Seattle can come from 11 games back and take the division there. In the wild card, I'm going to go with Tampa Bay as the first wild card team. They just find ways to win games, really. They're really creative with how they use their pitching. They never really had the best lineup, but they find ways to manufacture runs. They've got some solid pitchers in the rotation. They know how to utilize them. So, I'm going to take them as the first wild card team. Second wild card team, I'm going to take the Minnesota Twins. They still have a pretty solid team. Carlos Correa, Byron Buxton, guys like that. They can definitely hit. So I think they'll make the playoffs as well. Some decent pitchers in the rotation too. And also Johan Duran is, in my opinion, the second best closer in baseball and soon to be first if Edwin Diaz somehow falls off. He is unbelievably good. Threw the first 100-mile-per-hour off-speed pitch in the history of baseball the other day. Like, people don't realize how quickly that guy's going to rise up and become one of the best closers in baseball. And then for the third wild card team, I'm going to go with Seattle. I'm not really sold on their offense. Obviously, Julio Rodriguez has been really, really good. But, a lot of guys in that lineup have completely fallen off. I don't really think they're going to be a great hitting team. However, they've got a great rotation. And a lot of people don't really realize that. Obviously, they got Luis Castillo. Robbie Ray hasn't been that great, but, he's still there towards the top. And, they got other guys, Chris Flexen. Bullpen's not really bad either. They got Paul Sewald and Andres Munoz, among others. So I can definitely see them taking that other wild card spot. I don't think they're going to be the first wild card team. I think they're going to kind of temper out, but I think they definitely make the playoffs.
Yeah, piggybacking on that, my playoffs are a little bit different in the AL. Like you said, the Twins Guardians is kind of a toss-up. So I'm going to go with the Twins, twin the Central. Just because it's a toss-up and I like their roster better. The standings in the East are pretty much set, in my opinion. I think the Yankees are pretty much a lock to make the playoffs and to win the division at this point. And then same over there in the West with the Astros. But because my divisions are a little bit different than yours, I have my wild cards a little bit different. I actually am going to take the Mariners to have that first wild card spot and have the highest wild card seeding. I really like what they have done with their roster. Great mix of young talent with proven older. I wouldn't necessarily say proven, but older guys who can hit for pop. That's always a good plus. Of course, Julio Rodriguez is like one of the best shows in baseball right now. Very hard to root against him. They have a good young catcher as well. I really like Cal Raleigh, great pop, as well as he's okay behind the plate. Definitely, I feel like a good leadership piece. And then that the rotation and their back into their bullpen, I think, is solid enough. And just moving forward, I think some of the other teams have harder schedules. And so I'll take the Rays with that second spot. It really honestly could go either way there. And then with my last spot, I really think the Blue Jays hold on. I'm a big believer in their offense. Vladdy, down year for a lot of their guys. Biggio hasn't really turned out to be the piece they thought he was going to be. But I think that they have a good team behind them, solid rotation, could be better. That's why I really think that's going to be their limitation moving forward throughout the playoffs. But Barrios, Gossman, Manoah, that's a great front three. Stripling's been decent behind them as well. But we'll see how the back end holds up throughout this last month, as well as their bullpen could be a little bit better. But I really like the Blue Jays offense. It's hard to beat an infield of Bichette, Merrifield, Guerrero, and Chapman. That's a pretty freaking good infield. One of the best in the AL, I think. And I think that they'll hold on to that spot. So the only thing I really think that changes from today is Mariners pass the Rays in the standings, and the Twins will go ahead and win their division.
So I got a pretty similar layout to you, Maddox. I also am going to have the Twins winning that division, and it's not that I think that they're like significantly better than the Guardians or anything like that, but honestly, they just have a much easier schedule. If you look at like
Way
who they're
easier.
playing,
Yeah, it's actually insane.
like they're playing, it's not bad at all down the stretch. One thing that is interesting though is they actually play the Royals 6 times in the season, which I did not think that you could even do. Maybe that's because of the not shortened season, but the adjusted season. So I think that's probably why that's how it's ending off. But I mean, that's great for the Guardians to go and play the Royals 6 times to close out the year. But I do think that the Twins are going to end up taking that division. A lot of head-to-head games between those two teams, so I think that's going to be the decider there. And then we keep looking at these divisions. Yankees, I think that they're a lock. Astros, I think pretty obvious they're a lock. But then we go into the wild card. I don't know who's going to necessarily be the 1 and the 2 in the wild card, but I think it will be the Rays or the Mariners, either way you put that. And then I think it's kind of tough for that third wild card spot because you have the Blue Jays and the Orioles in the East, and they play a lot of head-to-head games. So that's going to put one of them clearly in front of the other team if one of them wins like a 6 or 7 of those. I think it's like 6 or 7 of those 10 games I think it is that they have left. So that's going to be a huge deciding factor. And then the other one, of course, is the Guardians or the Twins if they don't make it. But that team probably has a little bit better of a chance just because they're not playing the same teams in terms of the East teams. Like they have an easier schedule. They play the White Sox a lot. They play the Royals. So I think one of those teams probably has the edge over the Blue Jays and the Orioles. So in this case, it would be the Guardians just because they're going to beat each other up. And if you play so many games in common like that, that's where it gets tough. So, I mean, I could definitely see the Blue Jays making the playoffs. Honestly, going into the year, I would have totally expected them to make the playoffs, probably as maybe the top wild card team. So it'd be a big time disappointment if the Blue Jays did not make the playoffs. But I think that it's pretty decent that the Guardians will end up in that final wild card spot. If the Orioles are able to kind of continue to hang in there, I don't think that the Orioles are going to make it. But if they're able to just kind of stay around, that means that they're probably beating the Blue Jays, and that's going to put the Blue Jays in a very tough spot. So that's probably all I got. But anything else, guys, before we take off out of here?
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to touch on that. One of the main reasons I did end up picking the Blue Jays is because they play all division games the next month besides 2 series, and it's against Pittsburgh and Texas. So I feel like that's a free 4, 5, 6 wins. And I think that they're better than Baltimore. So I think that they can win 6 or 7 of those 10. And I think that they play Boston series to end the season. And I think that they're better than Boston. So it'll pretty much come down to, can they go 500 against the Yankees and Tampa Bay? And I think they can. So that's just one of the main reasons I picked the Blue Jays. And I guess the good thing about baseball is we will see.
Yeah, I'm there with you. So I think that's probably going to do it for today's episode. Thank you guys all for listening. None of us will be on tomorrow on AFS, but there will be an NBA show done by Makana tomorrow night. So if you guys want to tune in for that, make sure to do that. But I think that's going to do it. So thank you guys for hopping on. Thanks for joining. And that's going to do it for tonight. So have a great night. And hopefully the Padres are able to hang in with the Dodgers this weekend.